I do not have any announcements, no.
Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have a proclamation that I'd like to read into the record. This is the designation of July as Park and Recreation Month. And Bryce is here, so he's still alive. And I assume your staff is all still alive.
Last time I checked.
Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of Fairway, and whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas parks and natural recreation areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the City of Fairway recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now therefore be it resolved by Mayor Melanie Hepperly that July is recognized as Park and Recreation Month in the City of Fairway, dated this 11th day of July 2022. Bryce, please give a big thank you to your staff. I know how hard they're working, and in this heat, just like for all the rest of us, I'm sure it's not always a pleasant job to be doing.
Yeah.
But tell them thank you very, very much.
Will do. Thank you.
And I know we'll see later on in your report how successful the programs have been this year, and we congratulate you on that. All right, we'll move on to the monthly reports of standing committees. And Chief Steve Chick is with us this morning, this evening, Consolidated Fire District Number 2.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me again.
You bet.
I always enjoy coming to Fairway, so I wanted to take the time today to give you a few glimpses into current events that have gone on at CFD2 and what that's driving in our near future. So over the last month here, we've retired 4 of our professionals who have over 80 years combined experience between them at CFD2. Many more years outside of CFD2, but they brought 80 years of service just to this district. In doing so, we had to recruit to fill new positions and promote people, and we were kind of met with some uncomfortable feeling, and that is a feeling that our friends in the police department know very well. We're used to 40, 50, 60 applicants, and we got 14 applicants for the positions that we had available. Fortunately, we have been known as a destination department because of our culture and the work environment that we create, and we do take pretty good care of our employees. But 14 was a stark difference for us, and a notice that we need to be careful of our recruiting and our retention efforts going into the future. And so We've seen these applicant numbers start to dwindle. We're working to maintain our position as a destination department and keep our culture good and maintain a competitive benefits package that allows us to hire the best people in Johnson County. Fortunately, we are one of the departments in the area that people seek to go to even when they're employed at other places, and so that competitive advantage is very nice for us. Retention becomes critical in today's workforce. We see a little bit more transiency, but we're looking for ways to entice people to stay for a career with us and give them the opportunities to grow. So, in our 2023 budget, one of the initiatives that we're proposing to our board is enhancing our retention through a supplemental retirement. Currently, we have a defined benefit pension. What that means is when we retire at 55 or 58 or however old you're able to retire, then you know what you're going to make in retirement. The problem is 6 or 8 or 10 years after you retire, it's not the same amount of money that you retire with. And so you have to have some supplementary savings. So we do have people putting away money in their supplemental savings, but we do not offer any match, which is very different from our competitors in this field. In fact, all of our fire department competitors offer some sort of a sharing or a match in 457 or in the supplemental retirement area. And so that's one of the initiatives we're looking at proposing. How that rolls into the big numbers, for the last 3 years, CFD2's done a very good job of controlling our costs. We've seen mill reductions for 3 years in a row now, even at a revenue neutral rate last year, which we think was extremely responsible, knowing that we were coming out of a pandemic. This year, though we do plan to exceed the revenue neutral rate and collect more than the amount of tax that we collected last year, we do anticipate another drop in the mill levy of at least a quarter or up to a third of a mill, and those are numbers we're trying to hammer out right now. So in real dollars, what I'd like to share with you is that over the last 4 years, our property values in the district have gone up in excess of 26% as the fire district as a whole, and our revenues have only gone up about 14%. And so we're going to continue to try and be responsible in those manners, but this year we do plan, we have a couple of initiatives that we think will make us competitive and able to hire the best people in the area to serve our communities, and those are what we're working on right now. So I'd be happy to stand for any questions that you might have.
Any questions for the chief? Thank you very
All right.
much.
Well, thank you all. Appreciate the time that you offered me.
Appreciate you coming. Administration and Finance, Nathan?
I will let the report stand as submitted. We did have a busy agenda on our Administration and Finance Committee meeting on June 29th, where we discussed moving to a third-party cybersecurity coverage as opposed to it being provided through our insurance vendor. It's the same company that they've had. It's just due to rising costs, that cost is not being passed directly on to the individual entities of Midwest Public Risk. And then we've highlighted or discussed a number of changes to the employee manual, which are highlighted in a later agenda item, and as well as on the dais, I handed out a color copy of the changes that were made late this afternoon. I am happy to answer any questions about administration if there are any. Otherwise, we can jump to finance.
Any questions concerning administration? Okay.
Okay, finance, we've been busy with drafting the 2023 budget. As a part of our new business item today, we'll conduct our hearing for the budget public forum for 2023 to a packed crowd, as you all can see. But right now, our fund balance is strong, cash flow is good, and also on the agenda tonight is the resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate, which will be further on down under new business. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anything on finance? Okay. Thank you, Nathan. We'll move on to the Police Committee. Chief?
Thanks. I'm going to let my report stand. I do have a few things to mention, however, just again, the number of arrests that we had is nearly doubling We do arrest the same people sometimes, multiple times in a month, which is very exciting for us to see the same guys doing the same things. You guys may know some of these people. The other thing I want to mention too is last night in Westport, I think if you have kept up on the news, you noticed that there was a mass casualty shooting that killed one person and injured 5 officers, off-duty officers down there in Westport engaged that shooter. But the reason why I'm mentioning that is the proximity to us, and also Northzone cars were dispatched. Our officer had a warrant at our station. He was serving a warrant with an individual that was in custody, so we did not respond to that. The proximity to the front door of our station and where that occurred is 2.7 miles. It's very, very close. And this is the second assist we've had involving KCMO within the last month. So unfortunately, violence is very, very close to us, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware again of the proximity of that. Westport seems like it's way far away, but it's just across that double yellow line. That's all I have. I'll answer any questions.
Questions for the chief? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Public Works, Bill?
Before Bill jumps on, I just want to mention, for some reason, Jenna and Bill's video is disabled, and it says that the host is doing it. I don't know what to click to undo that, so they're just going to be audio only for tonight.
Okay.
And I put on a clean shirt and everything.
How did your
That's probably
surgery, Bill, how
better
did
at
your
least-
surgery go?
Yes.
How did your surgery
pro-
go?
I said I even put on a clean shirt and everything.
No.
That-
How did your surgery go?
It went well. I'm not in as much pain as I thought. Maybe that's just because this is my second surgery of the year, and this one didn't bother me near as much. It's kind of fun being reminded of your own mortality and the fact that you're getting older every single day. I honestly injured my knee walking, so that's a new one for me. But like I said, this is my second surgery of the year, so my third one's free. So I got that going for me. But rehab is going well. I'm hoping to be back in the office this week. I'm 24 hours without any pain meds, and if I can go another day, I think I'm good to go.
Well, we look forward to your return.
Thank you. I will let my report stand as submitted. One thing I do want to highlight on there is something new, is I was selected / coerced into being a super delegate for Local Gov 2030. It's, I put a little description in there. They're trying to convene 50 delegates under the age of 50 that are involved in local government. And once again, being reminded that you're getting older every day, I'm being sought out as in mentorship roles as opposed to being the young kid in the room like I so fondly remember myself. But this sounds like an exciting adventure. I don't know if this has been on Nathan's radar or not. It sounds like it came from the city manager type group, but it looks really interesting. It'll be nice to help, mold the future of what local government is like. And I will be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Bill?
I have a question, if now's a good time, Mayor.
Okay, Jenna, go ahead.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes, my apologies about the video. I'm trying to turn it on, but it's not working. Bill, I know that, or at least people have reached out to me about trees that have fallen down. Some are personal trees, some are right-of-way trees. There's one in Ward 4 that just happened today I saw as I was driving home from work. Can you remind us kind of what good tree upkeep is, and if there's anything we can do to reach out to the city to get a check on that, or does the city regularly do that? If you could speak to that, that would be great.
I can shoot a little from the hip, but we have a lot of resources on the website that are focused in, and we actually do a tree article in each Focus on Fairway that gives up-to-date information on what we do, what you can do. But and unless there is a large event, we only pick up limbs off right-of-way trees that are 5-inch in diameter or greater. Yes, there has been a few fall recently without quote-unquote any weather, but I think those were limbs that were damaged on May 15th and May 11th, whenever we had high winds on both of those days, and we didn't have really anything fall at that time. I know we had one over in Reinhardt and a couple on Tahoe and Swanee that are full, healthy, green, leafed out limbs. And we live in the Midwest. A lot of the limbs that are falling right now are oak limbs that take on a lot of water this time of year when we don't have rain. So they're trying to, store for the drought. And this is one of the, I guess, bonuses of living in the city of trees, that this sort of thing happens, especially with our climate, especially with our weather in the Midwest.
Thank you, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot there. I appreciate that, and I'll let folks know about the website and remind them to check Focus on Fairway. So thank you.
Yeah, all of the articles are archived, and Mayor can refresh my memory or not. I want to say it's at least the last 2 years, if not the last 3 years, that we've been putting one article in per Focus on Fairway.
Hey, Bill, this is Dan. I'll ask another question in regards to this topic. When a tree falls across the road, is that Public Works going out and basically clearing it off the road and pushing it to both sides?
Yes.
Okay. Are you using...
whether it's a private tree or not? If it's a private tree, it'll be up to the homeowner to clean up. If it's a right-of-way tree, the city will take care of it.
Okay, so I'm questioning where this is at, but I'm running around the city. I want to say it was one by the new park. I mean, it looks like something with tracks has been used to clean it up and really torn the road up around there. I mean, you may want to look at that at some point, because I don't know if that's
I will be happy to as soon as I get back in the office, Dan.
Okay. And if it's somewhere else, I'll let you know. I may be confusing my spots.
I know there was one that came down over there late at night, and it was a privately owned tree that fell. But I don't know what the street looks like.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, that tree was on Eastvale, right by the new Kathy Flora Lyons Park. It was a private tree, but it clipped a right-of-way tree, 2 right-of-way trees on the other side of the street, and Public Works cleared the street, which took a while, and then their private contractor removed the entire tree because they determined it was gone. And 2 more as a bonus.
Well, and I run around the whole city, so I may just be confusing them, but one of these trees, the road is now physically torn up.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was Public Works or the private contractor.
And I didn't notice that when I was walking the dogs, but I'll look.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning.
Did you just say that the private contractor cleared all 3 trees? No, the private tree plus what came down from the Public Works trees?
Bill might be able to address that, but it appeared to me that they were all cleared at the same time, which suggests to me that the private contractor cleared, because the branches were on both sides of the street.
Yeah.
Yes, and our contractor cleared up what was off the right-of-way trees and pushed over by the park. And I don't know if the homeowner hired our contractor to haul the rest of it away or not, but we only did the stuff that came off the right-of-way trees and was on the park side.
Yeah, they used a different contractor. I spoke with them just the other night. And what I can't tell you is, because branches from their tree ended up on both sides of the street, I mean, branches are branches. Now you can go in and look leaf by leaf and see which branch belonged to which tree, but they were all cleared out. It appeared they were all cleared out at about the same time.
Yeah, I instructed staff not to sort through piles, just pick up the stuff that was on our side of the road.
John Allen?
Hey, Bill, this is John Allen. I had 2 questions for you. I know your report mentions the stormwater CCTV report that is due this fall. Do you have a month this fall that might be provided?
October, November.
October, November. Okay. And then on the street evaluation that we are having done, do we know a timeline for getting that one back?
I actually have the data. I have not had a lot of time to dive into it for obvious reasons.
Sure. Okay. So that's done. We have the report, and then we just You just got to assess it.
I don't have the full report. I have the data.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I have the raw data.
Anyone else with questions for Bill? Thank you, Bill. Parks and Rec, Bryce?
I'll let my report stand as submitted. I just want to call out the event we had here during the admin finance committee meeting with Art Fairway, and show my appreciation to Brandy Poole, Ward 4 resident, that put this all together. She came to me with this idea, and we just simply provided the software to register people, and she even created a website for the information. And she took all of the registrations, communicated with everybody. We provided the software and the event space. So we're hoping to offer this again in the fall, hopefully outdoor, maybe at the park, do something like that. And then hopefully it'll be a annual thing. But it went really well. It was really neat to see people back there and all the kids' creative artwork that they had. So,
Any questions for Bryce? Okay. Thank you, Bryce. Next is the monthly reports of special committees. Tree Board.
No report.
Okay. Next on the agenda is public comment for consent agenda items only. We do not have anyone in attendance this evening in the audience.
We have at least one person online.
Okay.
So if anyone who's participating virtually would like to make a public comment about the consent agenda, please use the raise hand feature now. Nope.
No?
Nope.
Okay. The items on the consent agenda are determined to be routine enough to be acted on in a single motion. However, this does not preclude discussion. If a council member requests, an item may be removed from the consent agenda for further consideration in separate motion. The items this evening are A through D. A is approved minutes of the previous regular and special city council meetings. Did we have a special city council meeting? All right, we shall delete that. Approved minutes of the previous regular city council meeting. B is approved claims and appropriation, ordinance number 1764, June of 2022. C, approve updates to the City of Fairway employee manual. D, approve cyber security contract with Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services, Inc.
Mayor, if I might just comment here.
Yes.
As I mentioned earlier, we did provide, it was emailed out earlier today, and then at the dais, everyone has one of these pieces of paper with yellow highlights. These are just some recommended changes based on a conversation with Councilman Watkins, and then working with our HR attorneys. They crafted this revised language just in hopes of clarifying the time and service award a little bit better. So I'm happy to answer any questions on that if there are any.
Any questions? All right. Anyone wish to remove something from the consent agenda for further consideration? No? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Kelly Busick, Ward 1. Mayor, I'd like to request that we approve items A through D on the consent agenda.
Is there a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the entire consent agenda. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Nathan, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Under new business, you were going to get me a new agenda, and I don't have one. Yeah, I do need one. Sorry. We've had a full day today, haven't we, Nathan? Great. Okay, the first item under new business is the presentation of the 2023 budget. And I would like to open the public forum at this time. Nathan, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Just a second here. All right, so typically we have our budget public forum on a separate evening, but attendance is, I was hoping we would gather a few more attendees for this evening since we were combining it with the council meeting. And since we do have someone online, I will go through the presentation that we have prepared for this evening, which is modified from what we've done previously. So I'm just going to give some pretty high-level overviews of the 2023 budget as it is prepared. And then I'll be happy to answer any questions for those who have any. Okay, so just a few highlights of the draft 2023 budget. The mill levy will remain the same, as proposed to remain the same for the 2023 budget year at 19.928 mils. The revenue neutral rate, which will be discussed later, was about 18.2 mils. And what that will allow us to do is to capture the growth in assessed valuation with a very specific target of what we're going to be doing with those funds, and we'll talk about those in just a bit. The general fund budget has increased for 2023 by 4.41% from the 2022 budget, and you can see our total budget for the general fund in 2023 will be just over $5.4 million. Total unrestricted reserve will be just over $1 million, and that's split between the general fund reserve and the equipment fund reserve. And that is an increase. Going into the 2022 budget, that number was about $860,000. So with the transfers that were done at the end of 2021, we were able to fully fund our reserve. Health insurance increases range between 6 and 8% based on the plans that we have we offer to our employees. And as a part of the 2023 draft budget, the city's contributions toward those plans will go from 80 to 85%. And in fact, that was actually effective on July 1 of this year. Transfers from the general fund include $10,000 to equipment reserve, $575,000 to CIP, and $35,000 to the Shawnee Indian Mission Fund. Just a couple of departmental highlights. The police department budget does include funds for license plate readers and traffic cameras that will build upon the existing work that the chief is doing in 2022. Public Works has funding under capital outlay for a new salt dome door, as well as the purchase of Fairway's first liquid salt sprayer that will help with our street clearing efforts during snow events. And the Parks and Rec, yes.
I apologize. The PowerPoint has not changed from the first slide.
Oh.
And it was intended to.
Let me try and see if I can just get out of it here and move this way. Can you see it now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So again, Parks and Recreation, the budget under their capital outlay includes new pool furniture. The existing furniture, almost all of it dates back to the renovation, which would have been 2015. So 7 years for something that gets used the way the pool furniture does, that would represent a pretty good life. In addition to that, around the same time frame, obviously, tile work and painting for the zero depth area. Zero depth gets painted every 3 years, 4 years? On the fourth year. And there's been some spot tile work, but this is proposed to be far more significant tile repair, correct?
Yes, in the zero depth.
Yeah.
That'll be all encompassing.
Yeah.
Zero depth.
Yep. Here's just an overview of the difference of the department line items from 2022 to 2023 as proposed. Again, you can see overall we're showing an increase of expenses of about 4.41%. And if you look at the breakdown of each of those expenditure line items, you can see we have a 25% increase in the budgeted transfers for 2023. So that accounts for a good chunk of that 4.41%. Total debt service obligations for 2023 will be just under $750,000. That's very consistent to where we're at this year. And just based on how our debt service is allocated out over future years, it'll remain fairly consistent for the years to come. All of our other funds are balanced, and just a brief highlight of what these are. So the Stormwater Utility Fund, which is funded by the Stormwater Utility Fee. It covers bond payments for stormwater infrastructure that has previously been financed, as well as the street sweeper lease purchase payments, of which we will have 2 more years left after 2023. The Fairway Tree Fund, that fund is only, it receives its revenue from violations of the Public Tree Fund or the Public Tree Protection Ordinance, or those who are voluntarily buying into the Fairway Tree Fund to remove a right-of-way tree. Fortunately, as time has gone on with that ordinance, people have become more compliant with it, and so we're seeing fewer violations and fewer purchases to remove a right-of-way tree. So the balance in that fund, in 2022, we were able to fund the annual tree trimming that we do each year, where we trim a third of the city's right-of-way trees. For 2023, the fund does not have adequate revenues, which is good. So that expense will go back to the Public Works Department, which is why if you look at the individual line items for Public Works, that's part of why tree maintenance had a big push, a big bump in 2023. The Shawnee Indian Mission Fund is simply that for the operations of the site, and that is largely funded through contributions from the Shawnee Indian Mission Foundation. The 2014 Sales Tax Fund, which covers the lease purchase for the renovations of the Public Works facility, as well as for the pool renovations from 2015. And that fund will also be partially funding the Peterson Park restroom project. We're starting that project with the planning and design potentially later this evening with what gets approved by council, and then this will help further fund any construction that spills into 2023. And the Equipment Reserve Fund is a fund that currently has about $70,000 of unmarked money in it, and that is for future equipment purchases. The Equipment Reserve Fund also holds about $650,000 worth of the general fund reserve, which is simply parked in the Equipment Reserve Fund to get it out of the general fund. For the Capital Improvement Fund for 2023 to 2027, I'm sorry, that should say 23. Capital improvement projects include street maintenance, the CARS project, and just for reference, at the dais tonight, each of you has a budget draft. If you look at the last page, that spells out what streets are scheduled to be done as a part of the street maintenance program. And then our CARS project for 2023 is 53rd Street from Mission Road to where it turns north into Roland Park and Westwood. The CIP project also replaces vehicles for the PD as well as Public Works. Specifically for 2023, we will be funding some pool liner repairs as well as the Peterson Park restroom. Again, whatever is not able to be funded by the 2014 sales tax will come from the CIP fund. Just a couple of broad overall things. I know some of the council and some of the residents find this information interesting. When we look at what the League of Kansas Municipalities puts out as far as the summary of tax rates throughout the state of Kansas, with the proposed mill levy, which is flat, with the proposed mill levy for 2023, Fairway would be the third lowest city mill levy rate for cities of the second class, and that's based on population within the state of Kansas. Mission is the lowest, followed by Gardner, and then Fairway at number 3. We're the 5th overall lowest for cities of the first class, so that would be your Overland Parks, your Wichitas, your Topekas, and then as well as the second class, we're the 5th lowest overall lowest city mill levy. And then if you look at the total mill levy, so you add all the county levies that are involved, the fire district involved, Fairway is the 4th lowest overall of cities of the second class throughout the state, and 7th overall for first and second class throughout the state. So that tells you that our mill levy is in check with what other cities are across the state of Kansas, and shows that overall the city of Fairway operates on a pretty fiscally prudent schedule. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions from the governing body or if anybody who is participating online has a comment or question, please feel free to use the raise hand feature now.
Any questions from anyone on the council?
I'll just make a comment that I think Nathan did a much better job than his predecessor in the presentation. So he kept it short and sweet.
Don't sell yourself short.
Not at all.
Anyone? Anybody? We have one person in the audience?
And I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, and there's no one here at City Hall. So thank you very much for the presentation, Nathan. I'm very glad that you added that last page. I think that was very beneficial to share. That's something new that we've done this year, and thank you for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I will close the 2023 Budget Public Forum, and we will move on to item B under New Business. Consider the contract with Mega KC for design of Peterson Park restroom. Bryce?
Okay, thanks, Mayor. As a little background, Park and Rec Committee tasked me with breaking this project up into 2 phases and getting a quote or an estimate for getting the construction documents in hand to be able to see exactly, to refine the cost for the construction eventually, because there were so many elements like the wastewater, water one, and all those connections that there was added into the original contract, the original estimate that we received, because the price point was so much higher than we had thought it was going to be. So we've done that with Mega KC here. We've broken down all the fees included in that. It's just under $28,000. And so this would get us like I said, construction documents in hand. We would then be able to move forward with phase 2 with Mega KC, or we could rebid the construction phase of it to see what the bids might come back as, or we could sit on it and have it for future use. So that's kind of what's before you today. And I will note that there's a few, as Rich would put it, we're working through a few non-material tweaks to the contract form. I'm just going to roll past it. But Rich doesn't think there's going to be any problems going forward. Anyway, those are being worked out right now. And if we were to approve this, we are asking this would be approved subject to any reasonable modifications approved by the mayor, the city administrator, and the city of Fairway, or city attorney, sorry.
Bryce, just a little more detail, if you would, please. Would you share the number that we had originally planned on that costing us based on your conversations with some of the firms, and then what the bid actually came in for the entire project?
Sure. We were thinking it was going to be close to between $125,000 and $150,000 for the whole thing. When we got back the one bid that we received, it was the lowest portion of that was $306,000 for the prefabricated restroom. They also supplied another estimate for a build-on-site one that was much more than that as well. So much higher than anticipated for sure.
And if I remember correctly, it was because of at least a portion of that increase, not all of it, was because of their uncertainty as to what the utility cost may be.
Yeah, with the big one being Water One, or in Johnson County Wastewater, not knowing exactly what those fees might be.
Okay. And part of it were also the escalating construction costs?
Correct.
That we're seeing?
Yep.
Okay.
Mayor, if I might make a comment here about both Bryce's agenda item as well as some other agenda items that are coming later this evening. You're going to hear the request that the council authorize the mayor to execute a contract, because in a couple of these areas we still don't have a final contract, but unfortunately they're somewhat time sensitive and we can't wait another month for the governing body to meet. And I just want to, if I can just give a shout out to staff, it's not because staff hasn't been diligent about getting this stuff done. This is a sign of the times we're in right now, and things are very fluid, We are dealing with things this time of year that we typically at other times of year don't have to contend with. Obviously, Bryce with the pool is not having to deal with the pool in the off season, but there have been a lot of things that are popping up in the last couple of weeks that pull staff's time away from this kind of work. And whether it's issues with patrons at the pool or issues with individual residents throughout the community, I think it's important to just stop and remind everyone that when one of our residents or a pool patron, if there is an issue or a concern, staff dedicates the necessary time to that issue, even if it's just one resident, and that will pull us away from looking at some of the broader things like these contracts. And I can speak candidly here in the last month, every single one of the department heads has been pulled in many different, very diverse directions because of a broad variety of issues going on. Some of it we just we refer to it as the summer heat. Everyone's emotions tend to get a little bit warmer with the warmer temperatures, and so that can create some issues as well. But I just want to be, just as a shout out to staff, everyone is working toward getting these goals accomplished. We're being pulled in a lot of different directions right now. In addition to that, some of us, and Bryce knows it's not, he's not going to like when I say this, but some of us get to go on vacation. Bryce doesn't, but some of us do get to go on vacation this time of year, and that also can create some delays on some aspects. So I just want to put that out there that as we go through, I think there's probably 3 things tonight where we're asking council to authorize the mayor to execute pending approval from legal, the mayor, and myself. So if you have questions or concerns about that, please don't hesitate to bring those up. But again, it's not because Bryce has been sitting back waiting for someone to do the work for him. He's being pulled in 1,000 different directions, as we all are right now.
Thank you, Nathan. And I will second that. I see it happening on a day-to-day basis. And vacations are well earned around here. And I am a strong proponent of encouraging staff to take a vacation. I think it's very necessary. You'll also see as we go through the new business this evening what's happening with the economy and all of these bids, because this subject is going to come up on probably 50% of the items on this agenda this evening. And the park restroom was the first jolt that we got when we received that bid number. And so we've slowed it down, and the committee decided, as Bryce said, to break it into 2 different phases to see if by getting the design done, if as he listed the 3 alternatives, so that maybe we can tighten that bid a little bit as to the cost of the utilities, and maybe the current vendor can do something with his bid. Maybe he can't. Maybe we'll choose to postpone this project. It's not a project that's going to go away, though, because I feel very strongly that this is a need of the city of Fairway to see that this project happens. It's just a matter of when. And then the other alternative is take it out to bid again. We only had 1 company bid this project. That's not a good sign. And I'm being told by staff, and it sounds logical to me, that it's a very small project. People are not wasting their time on bidding these small projects, and that hurts us too. So we're being prudent and wise with the funds that we have, and so this is why we're taking this approach on this particular project. Okay, are there any questions for Bryce?
I've got a few questions, and everything that was just said I agree with. You're just first up tonight, so don't take any of this personal. And some of them may be for you, Nathan. Who did we get the 125 to 150,000 estimate from?
The people we would be working with, Mega.
Mega gave us that estimate at some point in the past?
Mm-hmm.
When was that they gave us that estimate?
When we were researching this project last fall.
Okay. So then they gave us a bid of $306,000.
Mm-hmm.
Do we actually have a bid from them, or is that an email saying $306,000?
We have a full bid from them.
Okay, so what did they, of that 306, what is utilities? What is Johnson County wastewater? And,
Sure, I can pull that up if you have a second.
Yeah, that'd be great. And it's all right if I just keep asking questions. So we bid this. Did we ask companies like Mega to bid it? Did we ask home builders to bid this? How did this really look when we bid it?
So we put it out on Drexel, which is a website where contractors go and check out. I'm sure you're familiar with it, but it's a website where cities upload projects, and then construction companies go look at those, and then they can choose to bid on what they want. I don't know if we sent it to anyone specifically.
I mean, obviously Mega had it because of
Right.
that interaction, but I think there was a few others that I sent to that had bid on the Kathy's Park as well, I think.
And we did have inquiries from other companies during the bid window. It's just none of them elected to actually submit a bid.
Okay. Would there be anything that would preclude I'm not going to name names, but a home builder that builds homes within the city of Fairway to bid on this? Just that they're probably not on Drexel following projects like that.
That's probably fair to say they're not on Drexel, or they're not actively looking for projects like this. Correct.
Okay. So I'm just curious what that number is more than, and an estimate's fine at this point. You know, I've been going back and forth on this. There's nothing wrong with Mega KC, but Mega KC's primary focus is to build. It's not to design. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I'm not sure it's best to have Mega KC design this and then expect other companies to be able to bid it later. I think we're just going to pay twice as much for the design of the project if some other company comes in and bids it.
So I think the design piece of it might be, I think maybe some clarification there would be helpful, because this restroom is a prefabricated kit. So there's the restroom itself does not have a lot of design in it. The design is really designing the infrastructure that goes underneath it. So it's, when you look at the tear down rebuilds that go on in Fairway, all of those utilities are already on that site somewhere. So there's not necessarily new taps. These will be new taps that will be into the sanitary sewer that is under 62nd Street right now, as well as a potential new meter electric if we can't pull from the pump house, which we're hoping we can. But part of this design / exploration / construction document development is to go through those channels and find out, will Evergy allow us to tap in and run from the pump house, because we assume we have the power to do that. The question is whether or not they'll allow it. Same thing with water. We have to go through the process to determine, we have a 4-inch main that feeds the swimming pool right now. We could certainly tap off that to flush another toilet and run a faucet. The question is figuring out from a feasibility perspective, is it better to run that line from the pump house to the location of the restroom, or does it make more sense to just create a new tap, so to speak, on Water 1, assuming it's also right there at 62nd Street? So that's the kind of work. It's not necessarily designing the restroom, it's designing the supporting infrastructure for that. And so I'm not sure, to the question of whether or not a home builder in Fairway could do that, they would be subbing it out, just like I'm sure parts of the mechanical and MEPs are going to be subbed out by Mega. So I think it's certainly something. We could have a conversation with a few of the home builders in Fairway. I'm not sure that there's a lot of interest from them either right now on building a 10 by 12 or 12 by 14 structure, but we can certainly have that conversation. This is more about the supporting infrastructure design and the mechanical, structural, that sort of thing that goes along with it.
And thank you. I think that's a good way to sum it up. I mean, I'm pro bathroom. I'm pro restroom there. I mean, don't get me wrong about that at all. But right. But I'd feel a lot better about this if we asked some other design firms what the cost for design or whatever you want to call it, MEP, would be. And if they all come back with $27,000, let's go with Mega. But I mean, I don't think that's a $27,000 exercise that we're looking at there. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, I had and in full disclosure, Nathan and I chatted earlier about when I asked him about this topic also, because my first read through was we're paying $27,000 to them to design the thing that they're going to build, and that seemed almost like a conflict of interest. That of course it's going to be more expensive because they're going to design it for their own benefit. But this explanation just helped greatly, that it's really not the bathroom that we see, but the guts of servicing the bathroom that is a lot of the cost. But I don't know that we have a deadline or a timeline, but it would be nice to, it's always nice to try to get, on this part, maybe we can at least get alternate bids as compared to the whole project. But the question I have is, my assumption is if we approve this, then this design that we're paying for today, if we went back out to bid in the big picture, would be the basis for a third party to construct their bid, correct?
Correct. So that's why, as a part of the contract that we're working on, we're making sure that whatever Mega does as far as design, that end deliverable becomes the City of Fairway property.
Okay.
So then we can take that, because that design work's going to have to be done no matter what. So if Mega does that design work for us, then we become the owners of those documents, and then we can go back out and say, here, now instead of everyone guessing what it's going to take to connect to the utilities, this is how many feet away you're going to have to go to get sewer. This is how many feet away you're going to have to go to get water. And that way it would be an apples to apples bid, as compared to now, we're not really sure. So, I think, Dan, your argument is fair, and if that's the will of the council, that we speak to a home builder on whether or not it's feasible for them to design something like this, and if so, at what cost. I think, the urgency on this is the Parks and Rec Committee has expressed that this is a priority for the Parks and Rec Department. So that's the sense of urgency. I would say, and not to put words in Bryce's mouth, that urgency is with the committee, and the council is not necessarily with staff. Is that fair?
And another question I had too, in terms of the big question marks, it's with all the utilities. And so in this design phase, would Mega work and, I guess, finalize with each and every utility the best way to service the bathroom, so we know where the connections have to be and the pipes have to go and the drains have to go? And so in that sense, we're done from that perspective. And then, so we have, to a substantial degree, at least in today's dollars, an idea of what the thing will cost.
Correct.
Okay.
And I would say, to take it even further, it would be our expectation that part of the deliverable is right down to, here would be the permit fee from wastewater. When you go out to bid, this is what you'll pay to wastewater, Evergy, Water One, Kansas Gas. So that's the expectation, is that they get us to that point to where we know exactly what that fee would be. So then, again, it's the apples to apples comparison. We know what it's going to cost Company A to install it versus Company B to install it, but all the other unknowns would now be known.
And once, for lack of a better term, we get the utility to commit to this location, this plan, can they pull the rug out from under us, or are they pretty much saying that's where it's going to go?
I think it would be very unusual for them to pull the rug out from underneath us.
Well, we've had one pretty big expense going from 100 and some thousand to 300 and some thousand, because of uncertainty with them. And
right.
Okay.
Did you find that number, Bryce?
Yeah, so the site prep there's three sections. The site prep was $31,000, the site work was $96,000, and the prefabricated restroom was $179,000. We did get a value engineered estimate from them as well, and they were able to take about $10,000 off of the site prep, about $30,000 off of the site work, and then about $14,000 off of the actual restroom. After they were, when we spoke with them about where we thought everything could be, we know where the wastewater is, we know where the sewer line is, and they obviously didn't have that information or understand exactly how easy it could be, but it could be very difficult. That's why we're trying to figure out the exact numbers.
Dan, did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm probably not saying it the way I want to say it. If we ultimately approve $27,600 for this design, I'm all right with it. But by no means do I think this is a $300,000 project. I mean, those numbers just do not add up in my head. I mean, there are plenty of sites in Johnson County or within Northeast Johnson County where there aren't utilities on site. They're not paying $300,000 or $100,000 to do those utilities.
That's
on site.
exactly why we put a halt on it.
Right.
And said, no. This doesn't sound right.
And again, thank you, Mega KC, for giving us a bid.
But
they were also the ones that gave us the $125,000 to $150,000 number. Something, it just is not adding up here.
And Bryce expressed this to the committee too, that hey, we're not comfortable with this,
And my last comment: if another engineering firm, if another firm like Mega KC could do this design for $15,000, we're getting the same product for $15,000.
Right.
I'm not even convinced $27,600 is the right number at this point.
I understand. We don't have to approve this contract. We can, a motion can be made that requesting staff to take it out to bid, and we can say proceeding with an amount not greater than. We have a $27,000 number right now. So whether you choose to use that number or another number, the city will take the lowest bid. So we aren't restricted to approving this particular contract if you choose not to do that, based on your concerns. Am I right, Rich? Okay. Other questions? Staff? Did anything I just say upset you? Okay.
Dan, your comment, I like the creativity of seeing if home builders would be interested builders, but this is a lot of money for a really small structure. But if I'm a home builder building a house in Fairway, I'm probably not looking to divert a lot of resources to build the equivalent of a $300,000 home when most of the homes being built are significantly higher than that, because there's not going to be as much profit margin in a bathroom as compared to a brand new house.
I probably made the mistake of even bringing up home builders. I was just asking the question if any of them were even aware of it. I'm not suggesting a home builder should or should not do this. It's a prefabricated building. There's a lot of ways to get that done. But I agree with what you're saying.
And I think I mentioned that the number sounds high to me, and I'm not on the Parks and Rec committee at this time, so I don't know to what extent. I see the new bathroom at the Porter Park on Tomahawk in Row, and I don't know if that's a prefab or what. I haven't been in it. And I think there's a new bathroom at 67th and Row in the place that used to be a church, but I don't know if that's a bathroom or something like ours that's just in effect a porta pot in a room.
Bryce, can you share what? Because I know you know what other cities are doing.
Yeah, and what
I'd
I've
like to
seen,
know that.
But I've seen it like specifically in Johnson County Park and Rec restrooms that they put in the South Johnson County where I live. They've been the prefabricated restrooms, but they don't have the winterized component, or they don't have the heater component. So what they're doing is shutting it down in November, December, putting a porta potty next to it for those winter months, and then starting it back up in March.
And the direction that the committee gave Bryce was we want it winterized.
Want to be able to use it during the winter
Yes,
time.
to be able,
yeah.
to be able to use it during the winter.
I get that. I just don't know any frame of comparison for this number. Is it way out of line, or is it just what it is to build a bathroom?
So it's a little bit hard.
Year-round.
It's a little bit hard for us to get comparables because when you look at, for example, the renovations that are taking place in parks in Mission or in Prairie Village, it's a much broader renovation than just a single bathroom. So they're doing. It's a general contractor where they've got, a lot of different amenities that are being upgraded, and the restrooms are just one piece of that. So it's hard when we're just looking at a standalone restroom. It's hard for us to get comparables. But I've certainly inquired around on that. And while no one can speak to specifically the restroom costs in terms of just the restroom, I would say that everyone is experiencing these high prices that we're seeing here now. So I don't know if they're here to stay. I don't know if we're in some sort of a bubble, but I think right now across the area, cities are seeing a significant increase in project costs right now.
I can speak to Kansas City, Kansas just had at least 4 installed by Mega KC, and KCK obviously isn't under the Johnson County wastewater, and they're able to basically put anything down where they want to and hook up to how they want to. So they're able to do it a little cheaper than we can because they run their own water, they run all of that. In Shawnee, cities of Shawnee, Overland Park, they don't do prefab restrooms because they have their unique Shawnee or Overland Park way of building those things. So they have an actual crew that builds those things so they all look like an Overland Park restroom or a Shawnee restroom. So with ours being a one-off situation inside of Johnson County, we're kind of left with that, with the higher prices and more red tape around there for wastewater.
And one of the reasons that the committee decided to slow it down and take this approach was this is a very small building, and it's a very large price.
May I ask a question?
How many square feet, Bryce?
So I think the biggest was be 14 by 14.
May I ask a question?
Oh, go ahead, Jenna.
Jenna, go ahead.
Sorry, John Allen. Sorry to jump in virtually. The first question was, as a municipality, Bryce, do we get any kind of discount from the county as opposed to a private home builder when we're hooking up the utilities?
No, the only price that we get a discount on is the actual building itself, which we found that is the same through Sourcewell, which was how we got a lot of our Catherine Lyon Flora Park amenities there. But we found that Mega KC gets the same price. So it's not much of a discount.
No, okay. And then I know the topic of winterizing came up. I'm a big fan of having this winterized because I know we have folks who are running and want to use it year round, and we go to the park year round in my family. My understanding for winterizing was just that cost was about $20,000 or in that range. Is that right?
Correct, about 18, a little over 18.
Okay, so that shouldn't be like what's driving the price up so high for the bathroom project, correct?
No, we would just have to add the gas line component, and then potentially more electricity if it needed a bigger line because of the heating components.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, go ahead and tell us your calculation, because this is the problem.
Can you make sure your mic is on, John?
At $300,000 at 200 square feet, it's $1,500 per square foot.
Mm-hmm. And that's a
This
problem.
is Taj Mahal West.
And again, where I'm stuck,
That doesn't include a real foundation. That doesn't include a basement. That doesn't include a kitchen. It doesn't actually include the expensive things that are in a house.
Yeah, so when, and I'm obviously on the Parks and Rec, so obviously when we all saw the number, it was like, wait a second. And I looked at it more of, that's 5.5% of our overall budget, right? 300 grand divided by 5.4 million-ish, somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay, big number. So what we tried to break down was, I guess, the site plan, and how much does it cost just for the engineering piece, if you will, of connect here, connect there, connect here. Yeah, I have no idea if do we even know are there separate engineering firms that would develop a plan like that, or are they typically just construction?
No, you could get an engineering firm to do it.
In any firm that we're talking about tonight could do this, that we're looking at in the next 4 or 5 items here. And I guess I'm gonna actually be a little bit more strong with my language. Again, thank you, Mega KC, for bidding this, but they're the ones that said 125 to 150. Now they're controlling the design number also. I'd really like to know if that design number is pretty much the same across the board. And
Is a fair number.
Is a fair number.
Yeah.
I am not one to believe you got to go with the lowest bid if somebody comes in at 27,400, but if somebody comes in at 14,000, I mean that's a substantial difference.
Oh, right. And that's the way the city approaches things.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the way it's done. John Allen?
I also on Parks and Rec, and totally agree with everything that's been said here, but I do think that getting this design piece moving is fairly important to hopefully solicit even more bidders if we can give more information in the next bidding process, because I'm certainly not comfortable with the $300,000 number. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with 27.5 as the right price either, but I also don't know that regardless, we need more information, and we could ask for more bids in that for this area, but that would be an additional delay. I don't know that it's super time sensitive, but I also don't know that it's so much money it's worth a delay either. So I guess I'm kind of in favor of moving forward skeptically to try to get more bids and have a better data pool.
Well, I think at this 300,000, just to use that number, it's worth a delay. That's a lot of money.
Yes. Oh, let me be clear. Delay on the 300,000.
Yes.
Not a delay
okay.
on getting the
Okay.
additional design work done that we're asking for tonight, which is all we're asking for tonight, correct?
Correct.
That's my take.
Okay.
Is yes.
And a question in terms of getting an you said an engineering firm could do the study perhaps too, and I see Bill is still on the line. You know, my recollection is in the past, on sometimes when we've needed some work done, we've gone to Burns and Mac and said, can you help us out on this? And they've given us a bid anyway, and I'm wondering if, not necessarily just them, but if we if we have connections with any other engineering firm, say, or just purely put it out to bid. But if we want to try to speed up the process without going through a whole nother bid cycle, I don't know how long that would take.
Yeah, that's my question, is what would the bid cycle be for the site work? To kind of dovetail
I think
on.
just the bid cycle if we were going to go out and do a formal bid process for the design of it.
Yeah, part phase one.
I mean, between Bryce's schedule now and everything else that's going on, I would say to do a formal bid process, I would say it would probably be September at the earliest, probably October before, not that that's how long it would take him to give us our bids, but by the time Bryce could do the work to put the bid documents out, my guess would be September. Coming back with a list of bidders by September would be the earliest. So that'd be 2 months.
Jenna, do you have something else? Your hand is raised.
So yeah, I think there is some time urgency in the sense that if there's a goal to install a bathroom that could be usable by next summer, which was that the original goal from Parks and Rec?
Well, the original goal was this fall.
Well, I mean, but the new
What's the new goal?
Yes, that would be, so install in May, probably. Have all the site work done by May, and then have the prefabricated restroom show up in May to be able to hook up to the lines to be ready before pool season. There was last time I checked with the prefab restrooms, there was about a 4-month lead time. I don't know if that's expanded or shortened since I've spoken with them, but we are pushing that very close to pool season, and I don't think we want to touch that for install once we get out there, since we do use it for multiple camps, and obviously people are just there all the time. So if we do another formal bid process for phase 1, for phase 2, if it were to be approved for phase 1, you need to expect that phase 2 might not happen until after the pool season in 2023.
And I don't like the fact that Mega is designing as right now for Mega, because I think it's the right hand and the left hand scratching their own back to a degree. So I'd like to see if there is, but I don't want to delay things, because if we're going to take their design or anyone's design and put it out to bid to see if we can cut down the big cost, that's going to take time, and now we're up against it, and now we're looking at 2024 instead of 2023, and I don't think anyone would like that. So I would be, I don't know that we need to go to a bid process, but I would certainly be supportive of reaching out to some of our prior contractors, and seeing if they would give us a quote.
I think if the council would be willing, I think if you were to authorize up to the current amount that's in the contract of $27,600, with the caveat that you would like to have Bryce inquire with another firm or two regarding what a similar deliverable would cost through them. And then we can compare, the mayor, Bryce, and I, and Rich can look at this and say, okay, that we think these are two comparable bids. One is $27,600, the other one is $14,000, and authorize the mayor to execute that agreement for $14,000. I think as long as you authorize the mayor to execute an agreement for an amount not to exceed $27,600, I think Bryce between Public Works and Bryce and previous projects, we can reach out to a few other firms. The caveat to that would be is, if other firms are not interested, as we've seen with other firms not wanting to bid on this project, I think if Bryce reaches out to 2 or 3 other firms and all of them come back and say, we're not interested in bidding on this time, how many places do you want him to go to get an alternate bid?
I like your idea. And if we reach out to 2 or 3 and they all say no, that should be the number. But I think there'll be some other numbers out there.
Yeah, I would do it. You can limit it by time and number. I don't think we just can't keep asking and keep getting no and no. 2 or 3, how long would it take you to response? I don't know just from them. 2 weeks, a week?
I'd say 3 to 4 weeks probably.
I'd say hopefully before next council meeting then at the latest. Yeah. 2 or 3.
Jenna?
I think Tanya.
Oh, Tanya.
I did not say anything.
Tanya, was your mic on?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to make a motion that we authorize the mayor to work with city staff to authorize a contract up to the amount of $27,600 for the design, what would be phase 1 of design of Peterson Park restroom.
I'd second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the authorization be made for the mayor to sign a contract after taking it out to bid with a maximum of $27,600. I'm not saying that very well.
I don't know that it's taking it out to bid. That, to me, implies more formal process of
You wanted just phone
Just
calls?
authorizing it
Okay,
with a
solicit
contractor to be
input.
determined.
Solicit other opportunities.
Right, there you go.
Okay. Before we vote, I need to open this for public comment.
If there's anyone attending the meeting virtually and you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature now.
Nope, okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion before we vote? All right, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Great discussion, thank you. All right, moving on to item C. Consider professional services agreement for the 2022 Capital Improvement Plan amendment. Bill, is that you?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. Before the governing body for approval is something we typically do whenever we're needing construction engineering services for a capital improvement plan. This is a not to exceed amount, and if I was a gambling person, I would not imagine we even get close to half of this. But we like our consulting engineer to review mix, make sure it meets spec, and especially on this one with the RRFB, which is the push button crosswalk there for in front of the creamery, that, you know, there's several different vendors out there, and we want to make sure that we get one that's MUTCD compliant before it's installed. We'd like for that to be reviewed as well.
Are you finished, Bill? Or did
Yes, I'm sorry.
Just fade out? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I'm having trouble hearing Jenna, so I just want to make sure you were finished with your explanation. Are there questions from the council for Bill?
Bill, David Watkins, I was having a hard time hearing you there. The question when I went through the package is, what is the actual change in item 1A? I was having a hard time determining what the change is. Or is there a change, or is this just additional services?
Additional services, David. These are for construction engineering services where they'll review any shop drawings. Specifically, what I want them to review is like our asphalt mix that is submitted by the contractor, the concrete mix that's submitted by contractor, make sure all the things we've specified are up to spec.
All right.
Thank you.
Other questions for Bill? All right, we'll open it for public comment.
Anyone who's attending virtually can use the raise hand feature now.
Nope. Okay, we'll close public comment. Is there a motion concerning this item?
John Allen Smith, Ward 2. I'd vote that we approve item C, the professional services agreement for the 2022 capital improvement plan amendment.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve this professional service agreement. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Passes unanimously.
I'm going to abstain on that one.
Okay, one abstention? No. Jenna came in late with an aye.
My apologies. I'm an aye.
And Mayor, just for the record, that was Councilman Bailey who abstained.
Yes. Sorry. All right, we'll move on to item D, consider agreement with Trek for the Suwannee Stormwater Project design. We've discussed this project in committee. Bill, would you like to explain the item on the agenda?
Sure. We have funding in 2023 from the county for the construction, replacement construction of a very dilapidated storm sewer that's in the Suwannee Circle. This is the design portion of this, so we can put the project out to bid.
All right, questions for Bill from council? I don't see any. Is there public comment concerning this item?
Anyone who's attending virtually who'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature now.
Nope. Okay, we'll close public comment. Is there a motion concerning item D?
I move that we consider agreement with Trek for Suwannee Stormwater Project design
Second.
It's
In
been
my
moved
neighborhood?
and seconded that we can,
In my neighborhood?
pardon? Oh, okay. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agreement with Trek for Suwannee Stormwater Project Design. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Item E, consider the agreement with Trek for the citywide streetlight study.
And I would like to apologize, Mayor. The agreement would have actually been in the packet, except for the moron that sent it to Rich, sent it to himself instead of Rich. So Rich responded quite quickly once he actually had it sent to him. But that's the reason it wasn't in the packet. This is the agreement with Trek for something we budgeted for last year to be completed this year, of a streetlight study of our entire streetlight network and to provide recommendations for us. They gave us an initial bid, and I didn't realize this, it was in early 2020, $55,000, which is what we budgeted for. I worked with them to reduce some of the items in the scope. We're still getting everything. We're just providing some stuff to help reduce that number and reduce the number by $15,000. So this agreement's for $39,895 for the streetlight study.
Quick question for you, Bill. When was the last time we've done one of these? I'm supportive. I'm just curious.
PB,
Okay.
pre-bill.
Pre-bill, okay. All right.
I have a question, Bill.
Yes, Jenna?
One of the many reasons for this, I think, came from some folks on Alhambra in Ward 4 were concerned about lighting or how dark it is when they walk their dogs at night. Will there be special consideration or any consideration given to kind of lighting at the nighttime along that Alhambra corridor? Can we just make sure that gets passed along to Trek?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Bill?
Hey, Bill, I could ask this about a lot of these items. How are we choosing these firms to get these individual studies from? I mean, this really doesn't pertain to this item specifically.
For like our CIP design, we actually went through an RFP process, and I can't remember, I think I sent it to 10 or 12 firms. I think we had 4 or 5 people respond. And same with Trek, they're kind of a little bit more focused, like the CCTV, they're kind of the only ones in town, and that's why we piggyback the design on with them. And I don't know, they were one of the first people I reached out to on if they had the capabilities for a streetlight study, and they did, which is where we got the bid. And then I wanted to work with them on reducing the fee of the project, which they were very successful with. I think the fee is in line. It's less than what we expected to pay, and it's in line with what for the product that we are getting. But to answer your question, most of the time we put out an RFP unless we're currently working with an engineer on a similar project, and we usually ask them, what a price would be for this. But we spread around to the engineering firms. Like this year, we're using Burns & Mac for all of our capital improvement stuff. You'll see a memo, one of the 12 that I have on the agenda for an agreement with GBA for a corridor study for traffic calming stuff. And we're working with Trek on streetlight and storm sewer right now. So we spread it around to a lot of people instead of, we obviously could one-stop shop, but we spread it around to try and get the best price possible.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, I couldn't hear Jenna's question real well, so maybe it's the same question. On a streetlight study, it's obviously at night. When do they do the actual study? Is it at night to see where the light actually goes, or is it more of a static study on sort of industry standards on how many feet between streetlights? or both?
Both. The quick answer is both. There's a formula and software. I'm finding all this stuff out, by the way. There's a formula and software and a model that they will use, that they will upload the data in, and there's industry recommendations. But yeah, there's more to it than just plugging lights in and turning them on.
Good, I would hope so, because it doesn't do much good to have a static study and go out and see, well, there are a bunch of trees blocking that street light and you can't see around the corner.
Yeah, but there is going to be field work done, and that's why this wasn't, this was approved in the budget, but we were designing this capital improvement plan at the beginning, and obviously summer months are not optimum to be driving around looking at streetlights. So this will be, more of a fall, winter deliverable.
Okay. Any other question? Public comment?
If anyone who's participating virtually has a public comment, please use the raise hand feature now.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Nope, Mayor, we do have public comment.
All right, sorry.
If you could please identify yourself with your name and address.
Sure. My name's Joe Alberti, 5905 Fontana.
Go ahead.
I would just comment that the street lights we have are fine. We don't need any more lighting at night. I like to see the stars from my backyard, and currently I can barely do that. That's my comment.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else, Nathan? No. All right, we'll close public comment. I'll entertain a motion for the citywide streetlight study.
Mayor, David Watkins, Ward 3. I move that we approve the agreement with TREK, T-R-E-K-K, for the citywide streetlight study.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the TREK agreement for the citywide streetlight study. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. All right, moving on to item F. Consider bids for the 2022 capital improvement plan. Bill?
Me again. Nathan sent out an email earlier. We had two bids, and I'm trying to pull it up. One was mid 700s and one was low 800s, which exceeded what we had budgeted for the project for this year. Mill and overlay price wasn't bad. The prices that were astronomical, Jason Myers, who designed our project, said he has probably 25 years civil engineering experience, said he has never seen prices like that, and he opens bids all the time. But concrete is apparently the coin of the land right now and the driving factor. We're going to be paying $63 per linear foot for replacement, and I believe last year we were like $35 per linear foot. So it doesn't take long for prices to get out of hand that way. What we're asking is the mayor to authorize a contract once Nathan and I sat down with the engineering contractor to tweak the scope as much as we can, get as much of what we want to get done. And I will say number one priority will be the crosswalk by the Fairway Creamery. And then we need to look at Howe and Glenfield after the Water One projects, and those are in severe need of the storm box and associated storm sewer work. I don't know who designed it, but putting grates in the middle of the street for cars to drive over was a silly design. That's a liability waiting to happen. So those are the main ones we need to take care of. I don't know what else to say. I'm well into my second decade of public works experience, and I've never seen this even leading up to like 2005 to 6. Prices weren't like this.
Mayor, if I can just add a few comments here. The reality of the situation is we're not going to be able to do the number of streets that we had initially planned to do. So as Bill mentioned, we will have to prioritize what streets get done now and which ones are going to have to be deferred. So that could end up having a rolling effect on the capital improvement plan for the next few years. However, not knowing if this is an inflationary bubble or if this is the new norm, staff cannot recommend moving forward at the cost that you see here. And just, for the record, the two bids, we had budgeted about $520,000, and the low bid is almost $788,000. So it would be not prudent for us to move forward and just eat into future capital improvement budgets when we look at, just as we were talking about earlier in the budget presentation, over the course of the next 5 years, and this is without revising those estimates based on these numbers here, we are averaging about $1 million a year in capital improvement expenses. So however much more we spend now than what we budgeted is going to take away from future years. So I think, our hope here is that this will, at worst case scenario, we're going to see this level off relatively quickly, or maybe that's not the worst case scenario. But optimistically, maybe we look at, if this is a bubble, some prices may come down a little bit in the future. I think it's a perfect storm right now of labor and materials that are driving this, and so something has to give at some point, we hope. But to move forward and do everything that we said we were going to do on that budget is not something that we can do today based on what the reality is. So I just want to brace everyone that as we refine these numbers, and Bill, I want to hold us to it here specifically, but I think we were talking about trying to get closer to $655,000 in total cost for the mill and overlay, as well as the installation of that crosswalk. We can tap into special highway funds. We have those sitting aside, and technically speaking, there would be enough to move forward to 787 if we used all of the special highway funds. But again, if we're paying a premium right now, and that will back off as time goes on, we don't just want to spend all that money now to get this year's tasks accomplished when that money could potentially go further in another year or two.
Well said, Nathan. Thank you.
Yeah, Nathan, I 100% agree. The items that I mentioned early on are items that, for lack of a better term, that the bell is already, you can't unring the bell on some of the things that we have to take care of this year, which are streets that we allowed Water One, to do water line replacements, which are a benefit to those neighborhoods. But they did those with the assumption that we were going to pave the streets afterwards.
Other discussion from council?
So, Bill, this is Dan. I might be putting you on the spot, but those bell ringing projects, do you have an estimate on the total for that? Or are we just looking at figuring out how much we can get done for 520? And what are we thinking?
That is putting on the spot. I do want to crunch a couple other things. I'm hoping with just by dropping one street off that we'll be able to accomplish all the things that we want to and just delay one street 1 year and then get the bulk of the horses that are already out of the barn, if you will, get those wrangled back up and put back. A perfect example, the RRFB crosswalk, we budgeted $15,000 for, and those items together are $30,000. Those were taken with firm bids that Prairie Village had received the year before, construction prices for ADA ramps that we had received the year before, and they're just not that anymore.
And I do want to be clear, we will not go over budget on the CIP budget. So we'll spend all of the 520, but we won't spend in excess of that. The excess will come from special highway. And we always budget to spend whatever is in that fund, and then if we don't spend it, by the time we get to budget planning process, we just know we're not going to spend it, so we'll intentionally roll it over. So right now there is about $200,000 in there that we can apply toward the capital improvement project. So if we can land somewhere between $600,000 and $700,000, we will have enough money to do that. But again, I don't want to deplete that amount in special highway entirely just because it might get us more in the future. So I think you're going back to a motion. This would be to authorize, and I would feel comfortable again with a cap. Bill, I don't know what would you, are you comfortable listing a cap right now? Because I feel like that needs to be a part of the motion.
Sure. Say 660.
Okay.
And if we were to make a motion at 660, that's likely removing one of the streets from being done.
At least one.
I think this is, while I agree with everything you said, and being, fiscally responsible is important, I do think these are, the streets being redone is one of the things that residents are okay with us leaving the mill levy where it's at. And if we're going to delay maintenance on streets, I think we're going to have to look at lowering the mill levy. And I don't want to lower the mill levy. I want to get, and I understand we're working within a budget, but we also have these ARPA funds that I know people have thoughts on where that money could and should be used, but I think that's some of the point of the ARPA funds, was to make sure that it was spent on things that really mattered within the community. So I just share that I'd be hesitant to delay any of the streets being redone with our current financial situation being solid.
And I would agree with you on that wholeheartedly, John Allen. I think the one thing I'd point out is the ARPA money, until we're able to do our accounting maneuvers that free up that money, it is parked there. And so I would not look at that ARPA money being available for use really until 2023. That being said, when we decide to, if the decision is to move all of that, as we discussed earlier, and it would be available for capital projects, the capital improvement budget that we'll be approving as a part of the 2023 budget, that does not go to the state as a part of the budgeting process. That's our own 5-year budget. We can amend that by a simple majority motion at any point in 2023, so that when a decision is made about the ARPA funds, we don't have to amend the budget, the full budget. It's just an amendment of our one-page CIP budget. So that is a very simple process that we could move forward with. I think I would say, what we're talking about here is looking at a situation that we have a lot of unknowns and saying, let's be conservative about this until we have a better idea of what's going on in the economy. I don't think it's a realistic approach for the city to look at delaying or slowing down our mill and overlay process or schedule in the long term. I think this is, as we look at what's going on here, again, I just don't want to spend all of this money now not knowing if a year from now it'll get us further than what it is now. I think the reality of the situation is, and we've had this discussion before, in 5 years we have a $5 million CIP budget, and we are funding that with a 0.5-cent sales tax, meaning the only guaranteed money going into that fund is a 0.5-cent sales tax. And that equates now in today's dollars and today's sales tax rates with what the economy has been doing. I think it's about $150,000 a year for $1 million in expenses. And I mentioned earlier, that is why we have to capture that increase in ad valorem so that we can dedicate those funds to CIP. If you look at what's proposed in the budget for 2023 and what we did this year in 2022, the money that we are transferring from the general fund to the capital improvement fund far exceeds what we are bringing in as a result of the increase in assessed valuation or increase in appraised valuation. Our increase in ad valorem tax for the general fund in 2022 two, I believe, was around $200,000. I think it's a little bit more than that for 2023. We're transferring almost $600,000 into that fund. So if you talk about reducing the mill levy, that will take the first hit, is that transfer over to the CIP fund. So any reduction in the mill levy will have an immediate and direct consequence on what can be done from a CIP perspective. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands that. I think this is not a permanent redistribution of how we do mill and overlay. This is a, wait a second, we've had something happen that's not happened before. Let's take a snapshot of what's going on and then reassess on how we want to move forward. Because the exact opposite may very well be on the table from a staff's recommendation of, if these inflationary rates become the new base, I can assure you staff will be coming to you with a mill levy increase request or recommendation.
Nathan, you said this hasn't happened before, but other things like this have happened to where we've had to slow down one year and speed up other years.
Correct.
And the consultant that we're paying, that, you know, Bill said, made the comment that he's never seen numbers like this. If we were building a giant wooden Trojan horse 18 months ago, he would have been saying the same thing about
Right.
wood. Wood fell off a cliff, then copper fell off a cliff. Concrete's just where it's at right now. So if it's a street or two, I mean, if it was my money, I'd roll the dice and wait another year for most of it here. But I mean, 660 is fine, and we don't do a street or two, but those are going to be the next streets that get done, right?
Yes.
Yep.
The order will not change.
Yep.
Correct.
And,
Now,
and you know, Bill has had a study done assessing these streets, so we will be seeing that before long.
and I would say that's the caveat that might change the overall schedule on
Right.
what street gets done when, because we'll have that PCI study
That's
data.
why I wanted to add that to my comment.
Yeah.
We're waiting for the results of that study. And John Allen, just to give you a piece of history, previously, and this was before any of us were on this council, street mill and overlay, am I using the right word, Bill?
Yes.
Was delayed. And we had to go out and issue bonds in order to catch up. Staff is working under the instructions. We will not allow that to happen again. So when you hear the recommendation of staff, Bill and Nathan, they know what the will of the council is.
Yeah, this is, I have to say, and Bill, this is nothing against you personally because you have no control over this. This was a very disappointing document to receive. Only 2 bidders, a 50% increase from what we were hoping to spend with no control over that pricing. I've been advocating with the increased property valuations to add, if we can, an additional street per year.
Well,
We're going just the opposite of what I'd love to do here, but I can't justify spending $787 of what could possibly be an historically high aberrational amount. Time will only tell there. Yet if I could predict the future, oh boy, that'd be fun. But I can't. But it might go down. Lumber prices were going through the roof on new home construction. They're down. Maybe next year the cost will be down, and instead of doing 5 streets next year, we can do 7 and get a little bit more caught up. But I can't. I hear you wanting to do all, but I can't. I just can't do that under this circumstance. Even though I'd like to do even more than 5 in a normal year, but I don't think this is a normal year, unfortunately.
Yeah, and John Allen, just as a way of helping you understand the role of the mill levy, we'd all like to reduce the mill levy. But when you look at that CIP budget out to the next 5 years, we don't have that kind of money. And so we've got a plan for those 5 years. We only have a $5.4 million general fund to carry on the services that we as Fairway residents want to have. But we've got to meet that CIP. So this increased valuation money, we have been able to transfer these funds into CIP at a rate that we didn't used to be able to do because of that increased valuation. But it's putting us in a position to not all of a sudden be facing amounts of money for projects that need to be done and we can't do it. So to take it away would be detrimental to the city.
Oh, totally agree.
No offense.
No. I just wanted to read it. I think you said it very well, David, that with those increased valuations, I think people continue to have sticker shock with their increased valuations, just as we're having sticker shock with this increase in prices. Now, I do think there is some aberration here specific to concrete that I think I'm a little more comfortable with maybe waiting 1 year. But I do think that those increased valuations, the residents have an expectation that that money, at least many of the residents I talk to, will be used to repair and maintain their streets that they live on as a primary function of that increased money. And that is part of why we've been able to maintain the mill levy and not receive so much pressure from the residents.
Right. But share with them this bid, share with them the CIP page. You know, this is public record.
Yeah.
Give them copies of it and say, this is what we're facing in the years to come.
The other thing is, from a valuation perspective, that's a county issue, not a city issue, right? I mean,
we don't.
The county assessor says that
correct.
Your house, Jason Rogers, has increased 7.9% specifically to your residents. It's not anything to do with the city. So, kind of went through this last year with Jenna and I. Understanding what is your property tax breakdown, right? It's always the city's, right? Everything's controlled by the city, and it's a minuscule piece that's controlled by the city.
It's 16%.
Right.
I thought it was 17. Have we gone down to 16?
We're about between 16 and
17%. 16.7%.
But of the overall tax, but nothing with the valuation.
Correct.
So it's two different pieces.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just a comment about that exact point, Jason, I learned, and I think the mayor might have learned the same thing this year as we were going through our meeting with the appraiser, their charge by their whatever regulatory board that is over the appraisers, they're supposed to be either 10% above, or within a range of 10% below to 10% above the sales, the market value of a house. So they're not artificially saying, well, we know your house can only sell for $100,000, but we're going to appraise it at $200,000. They're charged with being within a 10% up or down from the market price. And of course, they are constantly lagging because they're operating on data they receive. They're not out there guessing what your house might sell for. They're looking at data that says these are what the comparables are selling for, and they cannot artificially lower home values just to lower the appraisal based on their, and forgive me, I don't know if it's a code or whatever it is that they're governed by. They have to, their target is 10% above or below. So it's not as if the appraisers just out there picking numbers. They're looking at what actual sales are in the neighborhood. And you know, in Lenexa, my neighborhood was one of those pockets where ours went up 20% this year. I know, though, that my appraised value is still far less than what I could turn on and sell my home for today. So in some aspects, the appraiser's office by law is leaving money on the table because they can't assume that you're going to get top dollar for your house. That then trickles down to all of the taxing jurisdictions on how much money we're collecting in ad valorem tax. So it is a complicated process that I'm thankful we have the county to manage for us and that we're not having to do that internally.
All right. Any other discussion concerning item F? Public comment, Nathan?
If there's anyone who is participating virtually who'd like to make a comment, please use the raise hand feature now.
None? Okay, I'll close the public comment and ask for a motion on the 2022 capital improvement plan.
David Watkins, Ward 3. Mayor, I move that we approve going forward with the 2022 capital improvement project in a total dollar amount not to exceed $660,000, with the projects to be paid for in that amount to be determined by staff in their best judgment.
Second. All right, it's been moved and seconded, and this is this authorizing me to do something? Does that need to be part of the motion?
This would authorize you to execute the contract in a not-to-exceed amount of $660,000.
And to authorize the mayor to execute a contract with the low bidder McInerney Construction for an amount not to exceed $660,000.
Okay.
Mayor, for the record, that was seconded by Busick.
Yes. Okay, all those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Moving on to item G, consider authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with George Butler and Associates for a traffic study of the Alhambra corridor. Nathan, are you taking this, or is Bill?
Bill, do you want to start?
Sure. I figured everyone had heard my voice enough, but
no.
Apparently I was
Keep
wrong.
talking, Bill.
Yep. This is an agreement. I believe we met my last day in the office. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan, before I had surgery, with GBA. Went over the events and laid out the corridor of area we wanted studied for any possible safety enhancements that could be made along that route. Met with the chief, Nathan, I, and Dave with GBA, and then I took him out and drove the area, and we looked at it. He crunched some nuts. He did what I didn't think was possible and had a more than quick enough turnaround time to get it on the agenda for tonight. I believe the proposal is reasonable, and recommend the mayor to sign off on it as soon as we get a contract document together.
Nathan, do you want to add anything?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Questions for staff?
What is the Alhambra corridor?
Good question.
So this would be from the Fairway pool where the Alhambra dead ends to 59th Street.
And also including 60th Street from Alhambra to Mission.
And the purpose for this study is may not be, I guess it's not laid out in the memo, but there was an incident that occurred with a vehicle and a bicycle at 60th.
Wasn't it a skateboard?
I'm sorry, a skateboard or scooter of some kind.
That was in the police report.
Yes. And so at the request of the family involved, for us to explore opportunities to increase safety for pedestrian and bicycle, skateboard, scooter traffic. The request was to look at opportunities to enhance safety along the Alhambra corridor, because many folks who are in Ward 4 and parts of Ward 2 use Alhambra for pedestrian bicycle traffic during pool season and summer months with the creamery, and rather than the alternative Mission Road. And so it's believed that the Alhambra is a safer means of passage for pedestrians and bicycles. However, Alhambra's got some limitations as far as width of road that need to be considered. So we're looking at doing this study for the length of Alhambra as well as 60th Street, right there near the shops along Mission Road, to see if there was anything we can do to enhance safety for pedestrian and bicycle traffic. Chief, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
No.
Thank you.
I'm unsure who was on the email from the resident. I was, but they specifically asked that a certain study be done. I believe it was within bicycular traffic, and to compare this to some study that was done in another city. Is that part of this $16,000?
So the resident had indicated that they have a personal contact who would have knowledge about potential measures that could be implemented, physical measures that could be implemented here. We will take all of that into consideration. Whatever information we would receive would be given to our engineers to incorporate into their recommendations to us. But there was no specific study that was mentioned from another city. It was just the personal contact that they have of someone who's in a bicycle pedestrian coordinator role in another city.
Nathan, she mentioned some of the draft information on the next MUTCD manual that's in draft form right now. And I don't know that, I mean, we will consider, I don't know exactly what the differences are in between the two. We will look at it, but I don't know that we can do things that aren't already accepted or passed, if that makes sense.
Correct. And
I don't know what the differences are, but we will compare them and look at them for sure.
And just for the record, Bill, can you remind or maybe inform the council? It seems as though when we were talking with GBA, specifically with Dave, the engineer that we would be working with on this project, they've reviewed and commented for some of those MUTCD changes, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So the folks that we would be using at GBA are very knowledgeable in the field. He was familiar with the potential changes that are coming as well. So I think we would be in good hands.
I'm not exactly sure how to say this. It's unfortunate what happened. I mean, it's unfortunate anytime anything like that happens. But I don't understand what we're getting here for the $16,000.
So the deliverable would be any recommendations that the city could implement, whether it be through a variety of options, signage, pavement markings, redirection of traffic. What we're looking for from them is any recommendations that the traffic engineers would have that could enhance the safety of pedestrian and bicycle users on Alhambra.
So if a resident on Buena Vista came to us next month, would we also put this in front of the council to do a study on Buena Vista?
I think if we had an incident that warranted exploration to look at enhancing safety, yes, I would say yes, we would consider
It's the incident that's driving this.
Yeah.
Okay, because again, I just don't know what you can do on Alhambra. We've had these conversations in the past. If we can't make bicycling more safe on Mission Road, I don't know what we're going to be able to do on Alhambra, where you can park on both sides of a narrow street anyways. I mean, the city has the ability to, this is probably a Bill question, the problem really is that mailbox across from the Fairway Creamery and being able to park on both sides of the road on 60th Street. You get in there and it's clogged up all the time. It seems like the city could just say don't park on either side of the road right there. And that would solve a lot of this, but I think that's what we're going to be paying $16,000 for.
Well, and I would say, you might be exactly right, but I would say when we're dealing with situations like this, it is best that the city take a neutral position and not. I don't want anybody, whether it's the residents or the city, to look as though they're making decisions based off emotion. It needs to be made it needs to be made by data, and if that means we're going to spend $16,000 to learn that there's absolutely nothing or very little that we can do that would be compliant with the MUTCD to enhance the safety, I think it's money well spent rather than the city simply saying nope. So, and I think the advantage with doing something like this on Alhambra is that it would be applicable to Buena Vista. It would be applicable to Del Mar. It would be applicable to all the other streets in that area that are the same width and have the same challenges. Now, is it looking at, no parking signs for traffic as they approach the stop signs? That is one piece of it that the engineers will take a look at as they're developing this. But I think from where we're at now, by the city engaging a third party, it helps remove some of the emotion behind the decisions that will be made.
And that's fair, and I appreciate that, and I am not exaggerating. As a runner, I almost get ran over in Northeast Johnson County once or twice a week, well, all over the place. So if we move forward with this, my next question is going to be in 2 or 3 months, how do we expand this past just this street? Because there are things we can do within the city of Fairway. I mean, we're just going to have to start getting creative.
So I will say this as we look at, and I know I've talked with the mayor about this and Director Stogsdill about this. I believe it's in 2027 or 2028. If you look at your CIP list, 2027, CARS project includes Mission Road. And I've talked with Bill as we get closer to that. I think we need to have a serious conversation about the possibility of widening Mission Road to incorporate bike lanes or something along those lines. Now, I think that is an act that we have to do. I will tell you now, I think what we will find out is that the cost to do that is going to be prohibitive for our city. And there are also limitations with, I know there's a gas main that runs along the east side. So, but I think it's something we need to look at. I know it's been a conversation that's been brought up before, and if there's a way we can widen the street in a way that's meaningful to increase pedestrian or bicycle safety, I think we need to see what that number is, and the council decides if that's something that they want to move forward with. Mm-hmm.
Tanya? Jenna?
Thank you, Mayor. Have we at all spoken to Bike Walk KC to see what services they can offer us, either specific to the Alhambra corridor or more broadly as a city?
My only work with them was when they were looking at safe routes to school for the Westwood View Elementary rebuild on Bolinder. I have not reached out to anyone with him regarding this specific issue.
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea. I know Dan and I had met with him kind of, oh gosh, a long time ago, it feels like. I don't remember when, and I think they might have some resources, particularly for free, that might be worthwhile.
I will make a note of that, Jenna.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the council?
Well,
David?
I was having a hard time figuring out what the corridor is. It starts at the pool at the south end, correct?
Correct.
And goes then how far to the north?
To 59th Street.
59th, and then basically that one block on Mission Road.
The 60th Street.
To Mission Road, yeah, 60th.
Between Alhambra and Mission Road.
I think that makes sense to me. I understand where you're coming from, Dan, on, well, not this street, that street. That's a unique street. It's how if I was over there, it's how I would walk to the pool. It's how I would get to the creamery. It's a higher pedestrian thing, so I think it's logical to see if there's something we can do there, and maybe it is nothing, but I'm comfortable with that because I think I didn't realize it was a quarter. Now that I think I did, but it sounds like it is a big way to go. So I'd like to see if there's something that can be done there, and if there is, that'll be fabulous.
Okay, anyone else? Public comment, Nathan?
We do have public comment.
No public comment?
We do have public comment. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sandra?
If you could please give your name and
Yes.
address for the public record.
Can you hear me now?
No. Can you speak up?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Sandy Durek, 6029 Delmar Street. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I would just like to say that I live in Ward 4, so I do support the traffic study. I think let's let the data, let's see what it shows and go from there. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else, Nathan?
No.
Okay, we'll close this portion of the public comment, and I'll entertain a motion.
Nathan, is this a not to exceed or just approve the contract as presented?
This is also not to, there's still drafting up the contract, so it's not to exceed 16,000.
16 what?
Thousand.
Even?
Yep.
David Watkins, Ward 3. I move that we authorize the mayor to execute a contract with George Butler and Associates for a traffic study of the Alhambra corridor, which includes 60th Street from Mission Road to Alhambra, for an amount not to exceed $16,000.
Second.
Do we need to give the 59th Street?
And on Alhambra from 59th to where it dead ends into the pool.
Okay, thank you. All right, it's been moved and seconded that we authorize the mayor to execute this agreement not to exceed 16,000. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Item H, consider ordinance number 1765, amending and repealing Chapter 6, Article 2 of the Fairway Municipal Code. This has to do with nuisances. Nathan?
Yeah, so 2 months ago at the Administration and Finance Committee meeting, this was discussed following a potential nuisance in Fairway. And as we were going through the process, it really kind of highlighted some areas where we could improve the ordinance, both streamline some things from a resident perspective as well as from a staff perspective. And last month, we were hoping to have this discussed at the Administration and Finance Committee. We just weren't quite there yet with the ordinance, so it appears on new business this evening. But essentially, it highlights a process where if we have residents who are concerned about a potential nuisance, rather than staff making a determination of whether a nuisance exists and then there being an appeal process to the governing body, it is likely in most cases, if staff were to label something as a nuisance, it would be almost like the automatic appeal button would be hit and it would be before the governing body anyway. So rather than delaying that process further, this will then set up a place where the staff will not make a determination if there's a nuisance. They will document the conditions, and then the property owner as well as the complainants and staff will all be present at the following city council meeting with the understanding that we won't send out notice less than 10 days in advance that a hearing will occur. But then it will give everyone the opportunity to present their case at that meeting, and the governing body will then determine if a nuisance does in fact exist, and then we'll lay out the corrections and abatement process at that meeting, so that if there is a nuisance that is determined by the governing body, a clock will start immediately for that nuisance to be taken care of, or if not, then allowing staff to go in and abate the nuisance. So all of that is spelled out in the document itself, as you can see. I'm happy to answer any questions, as I'm sure Rich is as well.
Questions for staff? By the council? Nope. Okay, public comment?
If there's anyone who is participating virtually who'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature now.
Seeing no one, we'll close public comment, and I'll ask for a motion on this ordinance.
I move that we consider ordinance 1765, amending and repealing Chapter 6, Article 2 of the Fairway Municipal Code.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve ordinance number 1765. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Item I, consider Resolution 2022-D, a resolution of the governing body of the City of Fairway, Kansas, of the city's intent to exceed its revenue neutral rate, establishing the date and time of a public hearing on such matter, and providing for the giving of notice of such public hearing. Nathan?
Yes, so I'll start this conversation with a couple of clarifications on what this is and what this isn't. So as a part of the tax law that was passed last year by the Kansas legislature, cities have to notify the county if they intend to exceed the revenue neutral rate. That is what this notice is. That is what this resolution does. This does not send out any notification or provide any formal notice to the Fairway residents about what the tax rate will be for 2023. This resolution, and it was you adopted a very similar one last year, simply informs the county clerk that the city intends to exceed the revenue neutral rate, or the mill levy that they establish as the revenue neutral rate. And it sets the public hearing for the budget public hearing, as well as the hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate. They can be combined into one hearing, but technically it will be two hearings, one for the budget and one to exceed the revenue neutral rate. All we're doing tonight is establishing that date and time and the fact that it is our intention to exceed the revenue neutral rate. This will then be provided to the county, like all the other taxing jurisdictions are having to do, and then the county will create one document that it will mail out to all residents of the county that will identify what the revenue neutral rate would be, what the proposed mill levy rate is, and then the difference between the two. And they will do that for all of the taxing jurisdictions. So for Fairway, for example, you'll have the city, the school district, the county, the library, the park district, Johnson County Community College, and I'm probably missing a couple, but all the fire district, all of those are going to come on this one document. Whether they will only appear on the list if they intend to exceed the revenue neutral rate. If they're going to meet the revenue neutral rate, then they will not appear on that list. But that will come out in August. That will also have the date and time of each of the hearings that each of the jurisdictions will have to take place. I cannot imagine the size of document or spreadsheet that will be for some agencies and cities, because there are other parts of the county who have even more taxing jurisdictions than what Fairway has. So, but that document will come from them in August, and again, it'll spell out our date and time for the hearing. And then in addition to that, the city is also required to publish it on its own. In the legal record, we will do our own notification for early September that will identify when we'll be doing the hearing and that we're intending to exceed the neutral rate as well. So all we're doing now is saying we intend to exceed it, and here's when we're going to officially approve it. Happy to answer any questions.
Everyone understand what the revenue neutral rate is? And don't be embarrassed to say no. Okay. Any questions for staff? I don't see any. Public comment?
If there's anyone who's participating virtually who'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature now.
Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. I'll ask for a motion on this resolution.
Mayor, I move we approve Resolution 2022D, which is a resolution of the governing body of the City of Fairway, Kansas, of our intent to exceed our revenue neutral rate under Kansas law, which will establish the date and time of a public hearing on this topic, and that it will also provide for the giving of notice of the hearing as required by law.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2022D. All those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. That's it for new business. We'll open the governing body comment. During this time, members of the governing body will be given the opportunity to speak about matters related to the city. No formal action will be taken during this time. Does anyone have anything they'd like to bring forward at this time?
Mayor, I have a quick one.
Okay, Jenna?
Yeah, the last meeting we talked about how elections are coming up on August 2nd, and I know, Nathan, you'd indicated that the city would put something on social media and the website about it. I'm not seeing that yet, but early, pardon me, my son is sick and home. Excuse me, please. Our early voting starts on July 16th, which is like this week. So I was wondering if we could get something kind of up on the website and social media to let people know. And the deadline to register to vote is actually tomorrow. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll close this governing body comment section of the agenda. Is there any public comment for items not listed on the agenda?
If there's anyone participating virtually who has a comment, please use the raise hand feature now.
Seeing none, we'll close the public comment, and I'll ask for a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you all for your time.
Record.